Hey, Rick.
How you doing, sir? Hey, Ken.
Hey Steve, hey guys. Hey Rick, how you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Good.
What's going, Steve?
I think he's still connecting. I thought he was still on.
Hello.
Very blurry there, Steve.
You know,
That's better.
where were you September 12th, 1952? I feel like I'm interrogation.
We'll make you talk.
Yeah, I know. You lawyers have a way of doing this. Everybody having a good summer?
Well, I've been fighting off COVID, so I'm kind of,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, that's what I think. I think I picked it up at the Show of Dreams a couple of weeks ago.
Really? So we're not doing Cape Cod meet in September 7th to 9th, are we? As it says behind you?
Not since 1984.
I know, I was gonna say that. Did you guys pick a date?
uh, Working on it.
Oh, okay.
Working on it.
It's we have encounter then also, right?
Yeah, I know that we're obviously trying to keep away from you guys.
Yeah, I was telling Steve and Steve was talking to Pete. I was hoping we could get a weekend in between. I'm not sure I could convince Lynn to go to two Austin-Healey events in 2 weeks.
Well, just have her go to the best one.
And that would be none for her or the closest. I'd love to go to Cape Cod though. I think that would be great. Now we
Yeah.
have the Jewish holiday in there too. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, well, I think we're trying to figure that out too. And, I think we're looking toward the end of the month, but somewhere between, just the week prior to, Columbus Day, or whatever we call it now.
Well, wait a minute, that's October. That's
Yeah, I think we may actually be in the last week in September, first week in October, somewhere in there.
oh, okay. That would be good. I just don't know when encounter is. I'd have to talk to Steve.
I don't think it's
Probably the
till
13th.
October.
It's a weekend, so it's probably a 12, 13, 14.
Yeah,
They wouldn't, I don't think they would do it right after Labor Day, but I don't know. I'm not involved, so. Yeah, I haven't figured that out.
it'll be interesting to see how many people we actually get to show up here. It's
At the meeting?
tonight, yeah, they're probably all waiting for Peter to start the meeting somewhere.
Oh,
They'll
is
have to
Peter
drive
on
up.
vacation or?
No, he's out in Lime Rock with Jack Rawls. They're doing some testing out at Lime Rock.
Oh, that would be fun to see.
Mm. Well, he's been posting pretty regularly on our Facebook page, pictures and some videos and stuff. So that should be good.
Oh, okay. The New England page?
Yeah.
I have to see if I can find it.
What's the Facebook group?
Austin-Healey Club of New England.
Sounds logical.
We don't always operate with the most logical, but sometimes it works. They're rolling in now.
You got 1,400 members on that that website.
Well, they're not all members. It's sort of turned into a, I don't know, worldwide people who have an interest in Heelys with a primary focus on the New England region, but it turns out that we have a lot of members from around the world, and basically I say I curate things from other Facebook pages, which basically means I steal them. And so we get a lot of stuff from all around the world, from different Healy clubs from around the world. And once you start getting a couple of people from around the world, more people join in. So we've got a pretty good international page. I think Bob Abbott is trying to join, but it doesn't look like he's joined up yet. Let's see if we can get Bob in here, and once we get Bob, we'll try to start. Looks like somebody's joining from the moon. Yes, Bob. How are you tonight, Bob? Mr. Abbott? All right, it's a little bit past 7 o'clock, so why don't we begin? For those that don't know me, I'm Rick Neville. I've been around here for a million years. And your usual host, Peter Sturdivant, is at Lime Rock this week with Jack Rawls and team, and they're doing some testing for the team cars that they have over here that are going to be participating at Conclave during the race car portion of Conclave. And that should be a pretty nice event for them. They've done some testing up in Tamworth, New Hampshire. There's a private track up there. And I think they went out to Thompson as well. And as I said earlier, if you haven't been a member of the Austin-Healey Club of New England Facebook page, I would invite you over to that page. It's Austin-Healey Club of New England. Just do that search on Facebook and you'll come up with a page. And Peter has been posting pretty regularly a lot of photos and some videos of the track testing that's been going on with those cars. And I don't know if you've ever seen Jack Rawls racing videos. We post them up pretty regularly on the Facebook page. And Jack is quite an accomplished driver of Heelys. And sometimes some of the videos that we have on the page, you'll see him actually behind the wheel. And, you know, most of us would never dare to drive a Heeley the way he does. He's quite a fantastic driver. And it's a great representative for the marque. So again, I would recommend you highly go over to our Facebook page and check it on out. Do we have any questions to start the evening? Anyone?
I had a
Rick?
revision. I had a revision to my steering wheel question. You know, being a little loose.
Okay,
Uh,
go ahead.
And I mentioned I had a 5-inch gap, left to right. And I guess Michael got a little frightened by that, but it turns out it's probably less than an inch. So, you know what I mean? It's about an inch of slack between turning left and turning right.
So how many, I'm sorry, I didn't hear, but how much slack do you actually think you have at the wheel?
Well, about an inch.
Well, that's not too bad. 5 inches was, you're gonna be in the ditch.
Right. I know I scared Michael, but
Michael was gonna come up and take your keys away from you, I think.
5 inches is what I had on my soapbox when I built it as a kid.
I think I've had a couple of old Volkswagen Bugs that might have had 5 inches in them at one point, a long time ago.
So what's normal? What are other people getting? Are they getting 0 between left and right, or is there some?
I've never seen one that's 0, although I will say the new AH spares box I put in the car recently has a 0. But
Yeah, I'm not sure how
most
much.
of them are an inch seems about normal. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think my box is in pretty good shape, and I'd say I probably have an inch. So, and that's my car's got 25,000 miles on it originally, and so it's still in pretty good shape. And I think that might be the best you could hope for with a standard box.
When I brought it into the what's his name and daughter's place there, they charged me $8,000 for nothing. But he test drove it and he said it was dangerous. But I don't think it's dangerous.
Did you do any work to the tie rods or the ball joints or the
Yeah.
kingpins?
No.
And because that play might not be the steering box. There's also first of all, did you put fluid in the box?
I think Bob Abbott put some grease in there.
Okay. Did they do anything to the idler box on the passenger side?
I don't think so. I'm not even sure.
Because at the top of the idler box, it's a little, you can find it is hooked to the tie rods. And I believe on the top of the idler box, there is like a bolt or a screw that tightens down the idler box, the piece in the idler box. There's also a screw on the steering box that you can tighten. Have you seen that?
Is this a BN1? This is a BN1. Is it also true with the BN1?
I don't know. Let me look in the book.
Hey, Bob Abbott, you probably test drove it. Did you notice any problems with the steering?
Yeah, I did not, no. I mean, we greased it. I know we put Cornhuskers grease in both the steering box and the idler box. I didn't think it was at a point where it needed any adjustment, where I would have tried to adjust it. But if you adjust the top of the steering box too much, you're going to get a binding at the dead center portion. So every time you get the wheel to dead center, you have to fight to get it off of it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm satisfied. It does kind of wander a little bit. In other words, I have to keep kind of jiggling it back and forth to keep it straight. But so that might be.
Oh yeah. When was the last time you drove a 1955 Pontiac? You go down the road like this with those things.
Yeah. All right. Well,
How they were.
I'm satisfied.
It's funny you should mention that, Bob. I just the other day drove a 1957 Thunderbird, and makes a Healey seem like a precise machine.
I think the 1925 T-Birds make the Healey feel pretty good too. Not to step on anybody's toes.
We have any other questions tonight?
I had a question about parts from Moss. Is anybody seeing when you buy the parts that they're not lasting as long. And I'll give you an example. We were at a car show yesterday. On the way home, leaving the car show, I switched the overdrive switch down, a little toggle, and just fell apart.
Yeah, I
The
think.
internals of the switch, I guess, just stopped. So
The
the
only
switch is
problem-
flapping around, but that's it.
The only problem you'll have with Moss parts is electrical, mechanical, appearance, trim. I don't know, maybe a couple more. There've been a lot, I think I've read about problems with the overdrive switch from Moss. And basically, you know, the best thing you can do, if you can find it and it's going on eBay, and still try to find something that's NOS. Otherwise, you know, you're rolling the dice. The stuff is mostly made in China or India or somewhere in the Far East or Mid East. You know, I know people have had problems with brakes, and people have been complaining about Moss parts for 40 or 50 years.
Yeah.
And, you know, the thing is that they're basically all we have, unless you can find something that's NOS. Some people go to AH Spears and think their parts are better off. You know, maybe you can try, you know, the parts up in the Northwest. And I know Bob sources his parts, Bob Abbott, from Healey Surgeons.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether they still got a good supply of NOS stuff around, or they just find better stuff. You know, I mean, I've had problems with brake shoes from Moss that don't match up to the original lining size. They're not my favorites, but you know, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, I just, following that logic, I just ordered two. I mean, seriously, I'm just gonna throw one in the glove box or in the toolbox. And I, you know, it's funny you say that. I swear I replaced this once already.
I'm sure you have.
So I mean, they're all of $9. I said, give me two. I think the shipping was more than the damn parts, so.
Did you look on AH Spares to see whether they offer one?
I did not, because it happened yesterday and we have a tour coming up on Saturday. So I figured if I ordered quickly, I got a shot at, you know, having it for Saturday.
Right.
But
I do, you know, I concur with what everybody is saying, that Moss is it's a bit of a crapshoot on what you get. They do, in some parts, they do indicate an upgraded part. You know, they for windshields and steering boxes and stuff like that. Some parts they do indicate this is a better part, and it costs more, obviously. And then, you know, what the difference or what the source is hard to say. But like Rick said, you know, it's getting pretty slim pickings as to where to go for parts. You know, and they just bought, what did they just Moss just they bought Cape International, or they merged with Cape International. That could be a good thing. Cape International was always a very good source of parts, but they were mostly high performance mechanical, you know, racing parts and so forth. But I did buy a few parts from them over the years. Found them to
Didn't
be
Cape get bought out by AH Spares?
I said.
You said Moss.
I'm sorry. You're right.
It is
I
AH Spares.
mixed up my consolidation there. It was AH Spares bought Cape International. I'm sorry. You're right.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting how they offer better quality parts, because when we were rebuilding the engine in my BN1, we decided to replace the oil pump, and we looked to Moss, and they offered standard oil pump and a good oil pump, and I'm like, so I bought it from Dennis Welch.
Yeah, I bought a second gear synchro from Moss once, and my BJ8, and it failed in about 500 miles, and I replaced it with a Dennis Welch part that is still in the car after maybe about 15 years. So, you know, there is a difference.
Another alternative for parts, and it's local to New England, is Custom Spares in Brewster, New York. And he's been stocking and supplying parts for decades. And that's been his business since the 70s when I first met him. And he is a Lucas distributor and Girling and lots of other stuff. And he's very, very conscious to the quality of what he sells. So you could try custom spares in Brewster. I definitely buy parts from him.
Good to know.
Good to know.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, Brewster, that's Brewster, New York, right?
Brewster, New York. He ships
Yeah,
every
that's not
day.
that far.
No.
That's right above White Plains.
Yeah, it's right off of the intersection of 84 and 684.
Oh, I know exactly where that is.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that a shop or is that somebody's house?
No, it's actually an old Grand Union store, and it's filled with parts from the basement all the way up. So he's got lots of parts.
Might be a fun ride up there sometime, Steve.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say it might be,
Oh, a fake worm.
yeah, a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
I mean, when I need, and he's got older parts. He's also got a bunch of used Healey parts in the basement he bought from some guy named Frank, and I can't think of the fellow's last name, from New England Club. But he's got a lot of stuff in there. I had light rims on my BM1, and they're beautiful. And he prides himself on good quality. He hasn't made himself.
Flash on the microphone.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Lance.
Yeah, I just got into a BN8 here relatively recently, and I'm in the process of sorting out this, that, and the other thing. I have a couple of questions. Probably the biggest one is I've got an overdrive unit that seems to work just fine before the drivetrain fully warms up, but then once it does, it doesn't seem to want to either slide in very quickly or, well, it slides out fairly quickly, but trying to, when you flip on the switch, it just kind of sits there, and occasionally it'll slip back and forth. And I was wondering if any of you had any thoughts as to what I should be looking at first, whether it might be the solenoid or one of the logic switches.
You have to step on the gas before it'll go into, even if you flip the switch, you've got to depress the gas pedal to really engage it. I found that out.
Well, I'll give that a try. It seems when I did that, it would stay in low, and then occasionally, if I then backed off on the gas suddenly, it would kick into low.
Mm-hmm.
Tried to slide back out again. So I'm wondering if that might be a solenoid that's starting to fail when it gets heated up.
Have you changed the fluid? Have you refreshed the gearbox oil?
No, I haven't done that yet. That's next on my list of things to do. What's the recommended oil for that overdrive?
There goes the meeting.
Could I interrupt for a second? Dave Jamison, are you catching anything out there or what?
Well, actually, can you hear me?
I can see you and hear you. It looks like you're bringing in a great white whale.
No, we're just sitting out here. My grandson and I, who's been with me all summer, he's working at a local bar, which is really handy because it's one I happen to go to a lot. And yeah, we're just out here catching some bass. So how's everybody been?
We're all doing fine.
Good, because it's been, oh geez, I don't even want to think. We had quite the summer, and then we had quite a run in the spring heading to a place with a Model A meet. But now we're back home and doing what we do best on the water, and that's a little fishing and a lot of drinking and behaving badly.
That's good to hear. The local tuna just brought in a 640-pound blue last week. So you probably won't find that.
Well, maybe in September, I think we're going to head down on the East Coast because we've been pretty well, landlocked all summer. And Pam and I said, no, we'll take the Healey and fire it up and head over to Rhode Island and just take in some mussels and beer and some lobbies and just go for a trip and, you know, before the colder weather sets in.
Sounds like a good trip.
So back on point, any
Yeah,
further
it was.
thoughts
We
on
had a hell of a summer.
Go ahead, Lance.
Yeah,
I'm
we had
sorry.
a hell of a summer. Or winter, I should say. Yeah, we spent the winter in Arizona around Marana, and I'll bet you I put on, I don't know how many thousands of miles driving to every point in Arizona. Really enjoyed it. Really, really enjoyed it.
Any further thoughts on that overdrive issue?
How about you, Mr. Abbott? You got any thoughts?
Well, solenoids have been known to go bad, but I, like they said, I think I'd first check your oil.
Okay,
Also, it could be that the oil would create a little bit thicker viscosity, especially when it's cold, so that you get better production out of your oil pump, because the rings in that can go bad. So
okay,
you're not getting enough pressure. And, you know, if it gets down around 300 or so, it will kick it into overdrive, but it may not be able to hold it there or keep the pressure against the springs. So that when you change the throttle or something like that, or move the throttle, it'll let it to fall out.
so where are those rings located?
Oh, they're buried inside the transmission. And now we're talking, taking the whole transmission.
Inside the overdrive or the transmission?
Inside the overdrive.
Okay,
So if you're taking one out, you gotta take the other out. Don't try
Yeah.
to take the overdrive off the
No.
back of the transmission by itself.
Yep.
You'll never get it back together.
Yep.
But I think I'd first try the oil, put 30 weight non-detergent oil in it.
right,
All right, the transmission and the overdrive share the same oil, so the only thing you want to use in there is 30 weight non-detergent. And see if it helps at all. If it doesn't, I think you can buy a solenoid for about $25, and if you can get under the car, if you can get it up high enough, you can change that solenoid from underneath.
okay,
It's a bit fiddly, but it can be done. And so that would be the next thing I'd try to do. And after that, you're gonna have to think about the little logic circuits that you talked about.
right,
The throttle sensing switch on the firewall. I don't know, you said that pushing on the gas pedal will sometimes cause it to go in? Or did you say letting up on the gas will sometimes?
letting up on it, will,
Well, that switch on the firewall is supposed to work when you're turning the overdrive off. And they didn't want it to disengage while the engine was decelerating.
I see,
So
okay,
the switch was there so that it wouldn't, the circuit's not broken until you step on the gas pedal. And then as the engine begins to rev up, it'll disengage the overdrive or allow the overdrive to
I
disengage.
see, okay,
And that's just a screw on a pinch bolt for the lever that's attached to the rod.
yeah,
And so that switch acts funny. The inside of it is kind of weird, and you could turn it too far and it does the opposite of what it's supposed to.
oh, great,
Turn it back the other way and you'll get it doing the opposite thing. So with an electrical tester on the white and pink wire, I believe, the white and purple wire, I mean, you can see when the switch is working and when it's not working.
okay,
Just by watching the wire,
Right.
the circuit go to that, come out of that switch.
right.
If
So
I'm
Bob,
not mistaken,
thanks
there's
so
a little
much.
section in the workshop manual, how to troubleshoot the overdrive too, and that's what the switch is the throttle switch.
Okay.
Which may be helpful. I think it might also cover the solenoid.
Okay, great.
You said you had a couple more questions?
Yeah, the rest of them are pretty mundane. Where was the original location of the cigar lighter?
In a box in the factory.
I see, okay,
They
What
never,
did you
they only, they did have a cigar lighter that was a factory option. I don't know that you ever saw a car in the United States with one. Most of them, if they had them, were dealer installed. So
Okay.
wherever someone decided they wanted to put it, that's where it went.
Kind of like the spotlight switches. Okay.
Yeah, very much so.
I, just for what it's worth, I have one on my BJ8. It's located on the right side of the console underneath the dash. It's actually attached to the same screws that hold the BJ8 console on that side, the driver's side. I have no idea whether it's factory or aftermarket or what.
Oh, so there's it's got its own little panel that attaches up to the bottom of the dash.
Yes, it's just a simple little plate with the cigarette lighter built into it that screws onto the same screws that hold the dash, the upper portion of the console to the bottom of the dashboard. Again, I have no idea whether that's.
I think I'll just leave a lighter in the glove box.
Yeah. But it works.
Okay.
Mine was installed in the dash on the passenger side through the dash panel.
Okay.
I've got one that was in the car since new in '63, and I don't know what it came out of, but it says lighter on it, LITER. So I don't know. I think it's something that came, for those who are on New England, I think it came from Benny's Auto. Anyway, another question?
Yeah, actually a couple more. The steering telescope mechanism is all screwed up, so it won't push in or push out, even though the collar spins freely and doesn't really seem to be threaded into anything. What kind of a nightmare am I getting into if I try to pull that turn signal mechanism off the center of the steering wheel?
Well, I just went through all of that. Some of the people on the call may know, but because I just swapped out my steering box, but I pulled the whole thing out. Your adjustable. What I found a similar problem on my car when I took it apart, the old box, the old steering column. The adjuster wouldn't move. In other words, if I loosened the collar, which just threads down on a clamp on the shaft, it's quite simple. But the stator tube in the adjustable box, column, is a two-part affair. It's got about a 1 foot length that overlaps a 4 foot length, and that's what slides when you open and pull back and forth on that steering wheel. And one of those has a slot in it. One of them has a little bump in it. It slides on that piece. Well, those two pieces were absolutely frozen in my car. The adjustable steering wouldn't work because those two pieces simply wouldn't slide. There was just a ton of friction between them. And I worked both pieces on the inside of one, the outside of the other with sandpaper, and kind of just loosened them up and lubricated them a little bit. And now I put my old stator tube and trafficator and hub and everything back on the new age spares box, and now it works fine. But that's the first place I think you're looking. You just pull the stator tube out. You don't really have to take the trafficator apart. Just take the hub and pull the whole thing out together, and you can see whether those two pieces will slide or not. Okay. Mine just wouldn't slide, and it's such a simple little arrangement that I can see where it would freeze up or corrode or something, and just not allow these two pieces to slide over one another. They're only about 3/8 inch tubing, and that was all that was wrong with mine. But like you said, it wouldn't budge without because those two pieces were just stuck together.
Okay, great.
Have you tried what have you done about the collar itself? The rib collar, have you unwound it as far as it'll go?
Yeah, I have. And right now it's actually off whatever the thread was, and just spins freely.
Have you tried taking a piece of wood and knocking the steering wheel, banging it out a little bit and see if you can free it up that way? There's nothing holding it. Once that collar is off, as I said, it's just a clamp that's holding on. It may just be simple of banging it out a little bit and hoping it will free up.
Well, if those two stator tube pieces are
will not slide over one another. The steering will not move in and out.
Yeah, well, you might be able to free it up by banging the wheel.
Mm.
If to get the stator tubes out, you're still gonna have to take the olive out at the.
Yeah, you got to undo the olive, undo the wires, undo the hub, and pull the whole stator tube out. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that simple. And the center part, it's the whole thing with the tube is called a manette, not to be confused with mayonnaise. But the whole thing is probably about 5 foot long by the time you get it out from the front of the car.
Yeah, got to have the top down.
Yeah.
Well, if you take it out from the steering wheel side, you got to have the top down.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not that's why I suggested banging on the piece of wood a little bit first before you go to, DEFCON 3.
Well, now that I know kind of how the mechanism is designed, I don't want to go in there with a sledgehammer before I know exactly what I'm looking at. So thanks, guys. I appreciate
don't
it.
think so.
When I bought my car, I agree with Tom, but my ring for the adjuster, the ring is kind of spot welded to the piece that actually is threaded. My ring came away from the spot welds. So my ring would turn, but it wasn't turning the threaded part underneath.
I see.
Okay.
That
So
could
I
be
had
the
to have
problem.
Once I had it all apart, I had to have a little spot weld, or I replaced it. But that was what was wrong with mine. Also, to get the trafficator out, do you know how to do that? There's 3
Not at all.
on the hub of the steering wheel. There's 3 teeny little set screws all around. There's just 3 of them. And you back them out, they're little screws, and then the trafficator will come out.
Okay.
Those screws hold like a little, it's almost like a metal shield, almost a round metal plate. But that's the only way you can get it out. You have to find those 3 little set screws. So be careful about that.
Great. Thanks.
And whatever
And
you do,
the most
don't
important thing, if you do take it out, tie a
Yes.
string to the end of the wires down by the gearbox. Because when you pull that whole thing out that Tom was talking about, you want a string coming all the way up through the steering column. So when you go to put it back, you can pull the string and pull the wires back.
Okay.
It's not
Just
fun if you don't do that.
On Steve's point, if you do wind up pulling the trafficator assembly and the stator tube out in the way that Steve did, you've got, if everything is as it was from the factory, you've got 3 bullet connectors coming out of that stator tube. Three wires with, is it 3 or 4? I forget. I think it's 3. Is it 4?
4.
Yeah, and they all have bullet
Left and
connectors.
horn.
Excuse me?
Power, right?
Yeah, you've got
and horn.
wires coming out of it, 3 or 4 of them, I forget which, and you've got bullet connectors on them, and they're staggered, and and you're supposed to pull them. They won't all fit through this little tiny 3/8 inch if it's that big tube. I'll tell you what I did. I just cut all the bullet connectors off. If you've got enough wire on that on the stator tube, it makes the installation and the removal and the installation much easier. And I just put new bullet connectors on it after I did what Steve did by pulling the wires through. But you could fight with that for the rest of your life trying to get those bullet connectors through that stator tube.
Okay.
Just a thought.
And then one last question, and that is the ventilation box, the heater vent box that's on the up against the firewall. You've got those two little registers that point down towards the feet that you can open and close. But I've also got these 3-inch diameter holes that come straight out from that box that don't seem to that either should have a screen on them or should have a cover on it. What am I looking at there?
Is it
the inlet from the blower
is it
motor.
BJ8?
It's a BJ8.
I'm drawing a blank on it. I'm sorry.
They're for the misters. There should be a little 2-inch hose. One of those little paper hoses with a rubber boot. If I understand what you're saying, a rubber boot that goes up into the heater box. And there's a little hose about 8-10 inches long with another rubber boot. that goes up to under the windshield, all under the dashboard. There should be,
Is this box in the car?
Yeah, it's part of the frame. It's you know the
oh, okay,
dampers that
that's
you can
different. I thought you meant the heater box.
No.
I apologize.
No,
Yeah, that's
no,
what
I'm-
I thought as well, yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking about the you know, you've got the registers that you can open and close that point straight down at the feet. And that those are on the bottom of this box, but on the front face of the box is it's got these large holes in it.
Well,
And
one is for the cover plate for the passenger side, is where the steering box would have went for the English cars, the right-hand drive.
okay,
And the other plate, I think that the cover plate goes through there. Do you have cover plates?
no, that's the thing. On one side, it looks like there's a round screen was bolted on it, and on the and that's and it's on the driver's side. This hole is to the left of the steering column, and it's got a screen on it.
That's the air vent. That's the air vent bringing cold air in from the front of the car.
Okay.
There should be a,
Cold-
there should
cold
be a
air being
screen
relevant.
over that hole.
Okay, so I'm missing the screen on the passenger side, is what you're saying.
No, there shouldn't
And
be
then
one on the
there's- and
passenger side.
then there's a paperish hose that runs from that hole all the way down to the front of the car. Right next to the radiator, and it sticks out so that air could come through there. And there's a flap down there that you can open and close. The lever on your dashboard that says, what's it say? Pull
Cold air.
for fresh air. Will
No,
open that flap and let air come in. And
I think you're going towards the wrong part of the car. We're talking inside the passenger compartment.
right,
Right.
I'm talking about inside the passenger compartment. The holes will be there, and they do have a screen on them to keep bugs and mice from going in there. But the one on the one side allows fresh air from the front of the car to filter in through there. The
Okay,
one on the other side is connected to the heater blower as it comes through, and that puts heat into that box. Depending on how the two knobs on the heater control, the in and push and pull knobs on the heater control are set. One should be in and the other out for fresh air, and vice versa for air from the heater.
so there should be screens over the holes on both sides of the car? Or should the passenger side be closed off?
The passenger side closes off with just a little square plate held
Okay.
on with a couple screws, a 4 screw.
So that plate's missing, okay.
I think the screen is actually there to keep the mice inside that frame.
Okay. That's the way
Lance,
you
do you
wanna do it?
have a Moss book?
Yes, I do.
On page 96 of mine, it shows the cold air box that I think Bob was just explaining, and the little screen on the end. And I think your opening on the other side might just be the cover plate, as Bob was saying.
Okay,
You need to see another car. You should find another car and take some pictures under there. That'll help you immensely.
well, not a lot of these guys are around in the Maryland area.
We got a lot of guys in Austin-Healey Sports and Touring Club in Maryland. I don't know exactly where you are, but
Yeah. Well, down in Virginia, there's a bunch of folks as well. But yeah, I'll do that.
If that car sat around for a while, again, look up inside that frame rail. Because the mice love to get in there and store acorns and stuff like that. Amazing how much stuff can come out of there.
No, it doesn't look like this car sat, but I will look up in there.
Any more questions?
I don't have any questions, but I wanted to share some sad story and some advice. And it goes back to my wife and I trying to go to the summit in our BN1. And we got about 4 miles from the house. And while I would accelerate, the car would all of a sudden, it just kick out, die. And then it all of a sudden, it's slow down, would pick up and run. And it went through this about 3 times. And the 4th time, it gave us a great big backfire. And I said, that's it, we're going home. And we took our BJ9 up to Summit. When I got home and started to delve into just what happened, what I found was I wrote a tech tip into the Healey exhaust notes a couple issues ago about the little wires, low tension wires that are inside the distributor. There's 2 of them. And one of them had separated, and you don't notice it because they're covered by a cloth sheath. And what happens with age is that as the distributor plate is moving with the vacuum advances, you're accelerating or going up a hill, it stretches that little wire, and then it will let it relax and go back. And over time, that can just break, and you don't really know it until it happens, like it did to us. The same thing happened to a fella in our local car club when we drove all the way up to Lime Rock, and he was coming in the gate, and his car midget started to falter, and by the time we got over the restroom area, it was dead. And that's what we found it to be, was one of the little wires. And I've since found 2 other people that have suffered that. So if you're doing a tune-up or getting freshened up for the spring, you might want to just get 2 of those little wires from Moss. There's no adjustments to put them in, and they cost a total of less than $8. And that's a lot better than breaking down on the road, particularly if they're the original ones. So part 2 of the story is when I got home, I had no spark going out of the distributor, and I trailed it down to believing it was the Protronics. And we usually discuss Protronics about once a month during the year here on the tech call. And with 2 different tests I did, it was dead. So I did convert the car back to points and condenser, and it's running great. But when I was talking at our local club and going through this whole sad story, one of the guys there has a shop, and he fixes anything and everything. And he's been there for probably 20, maybe 30 years, very sharp guy. And it happened to he and his wife in their Mini. And when I was telling him about, I had to also replace the Protronics. He says from his experience, the Protronics are sensitive, and they don't like that snap voltage coming back and forth to them, like I was doing when I was accelerating and the wire was stretching and coming back together. And he said he's seen that happen, and that's what blew out by Protronics. So another reason to think about replacing one of those little wires next time you're doing a tune-up, it might save your Protronics. So just wanted to share that. For $8, it might be well worth replacing. So,
That's that little tiny short wire inside the distributor you're talking about.
yeah, there's one of those, and then there's one that comes from the block on the side that the black and white wire comes in, carries the voltage into the distributor, and that has one of those little wires also that comes off of that, and that's actually the one that broke on mine. And so there's the 2 little wires, and they're both available from Moss for one's $2.50 and the other's $5, I think. It's very easy to replace them. So doesn't.
Hey, Francis, you got a comment?
Yeah.
I have a question, Rick. Last month I mentioned we got a BN4 I picked up last fall. Had a lot of mechanical stuff done by Bug Eye guys down in Brantford, Connecticut, and SU carbs were rebuilt. Not much, nothing electrical, running on points, and the car starts fine, runs fine for 8-10 miles, and then starts missing and sputtering, and it seems to get worse. So I don't roam very far, and it's been very consistent in terms of the operation degrading after 8 or 10 miles, and I head home. The next day, I'll get back in it, start it up. It works fine. Sometimes I'll go 15 or 20 miles and it's fine. But yesterday morning, I got in it, drove 8 or 10 miles, and all of a sudden it started backfiring, particularly on low for second or third gear, or deceleration, really backfiring. And I had an appointment today to bring it down to Bug Eye guys to get a Pertronics electronic ignition put in. And I said, Jesus, I don't know how the hell I'm going to get down to, I got 15 miles to go. I got in the car this morning. It was a cool morning. It ran just not a burble, not a hesitation at all. Just ran perfect. So it seemed somehow I kept a log last month and what the temperature of the day was. And it seems that on hot evenings when I normally drive it, I have more problems. But very, very perplexing. It's a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde situation. 80% of the time, really, it's great. But it's the other 20% that's really perplexing. Vapor lock. Is vapor lock ever a problem?
Not usually around here. I mean, it can happen, but usually that's,
Say again?
if you're in Arizona or something, it might, but not too much in New England. Did they change the condenser or
Yeah.
both? Condenser?
Don't know. Don't know. Even as we speak, they're putting in a Pertronics this evening. We'll see how that works out tomorrow. But nobody seems to have a solution because there were some suggestions last week. Nothing seemed to work out. The only thing I could think of is just get rid of the points and put in a electronic ignition.
Dave, just a thought for you. I had a very similar sounding problem on my Sunbeam Tiger. And it ran just fine when it was cooler. Tried all kinds of things, including a new fuel pump and all that, thinking that it was fuel starvation. Well, it was fuel starvation, and it was a bunch of leaves in the bottom of the gas tank. So you might want to check your fuel filter, and also check how readily gasoline will flow out of the fuel tank.
I also was wondering, my tank was down. If it drops below a quarter, I think I have more problem whether there's water in the tank.
Yeah, it may be water or something more severe than that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
Okay, I'll let you know how the Pertronics works out.
Rick,
Yeah.
Bob Brennan here. I emailed you a question this morning. Did you happen to get a chance to read it?
Tell me the subject and maybe I did.
Okay, the subject was FAR-Parse for Healey.
Yes, I did read that. The question was two-part, is whether now that the original maker of the FAR-Parse is no longer doing that. I guess Steve Kirby is selling the parts now, and I think he's advertised in both the Healey Club magazines.
Yeah.
And whether anyone has actually bought anything from him and received any parts from him yet. And second of all, the second part of that question was, is there anybody here locally that's installed that? And if I'm not mistaken, Bob Abbott, did you put one in or have one in, or does Dave Altman have one, or?
I put one in for a couple customers' cars, but that was when Pusky was doing it. I haven't tried any of the system or the setup that's now coming out from the new owner of the company.
I think the systems are exactly the same, aren't they?
Well, they probably are.
Yeah, I just think it's whether it's like the Toyota 5-speed. The conversion is still the same. It's just a different owner.
Well, my question was, has anyone actually received anything this year? Because when the original owner of this company went, I don't know what happened. He couldn't get parts, went bankrupt. I don't know.
I think he retired.
Did he retire?
Yeah.
Well, I've written a number of times to the previous owner and to Steve Kirby, And I'm not getting any feedback at all, anything from these guys.
Well,
Has anyone gotten anything?
I would tell you as an alternative, I went with the SPAX solution from AH Spares.
Yes,
With a relatively straightforward install. The most difficult piece of it was moving the fuel pump. Other than that, putting the front and the rear shocks in was quite easy. And it was a complete kit, good instructions, and it drives very nicely.
uh-huh.
They're called SPAX, SPAX.
Yes, and that's
And
H
spares.
spares, yes.
And we also have a member up in Vermont, Williston, I think. Alden, I think is his first name. I think he put the SPAX conversion in and seems happy with it.
Hey,
Uh-huh.
Sandy, this is Ken Fleming. I know Steve Kirby pretty well. As a matter of fact, I just talked to him last week. So if you get with me, I can try to connect the two of you all. I mean, I didn't know he had the shock kit business now, but we were talking about something else. But I just spoke with him the other day.
Well, he is advertising, and I figure if he's advertising, you'd think he has a product, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I can inquire with him if you like, if you connect with me.
Okay, how would I connect with you?
I'll send you my email address and phone number.
Can you get mine? Can I give you mine right now?
Yeah, that'd be fine. Hold on, get
Okay, it's MGTC 7794.
MGTC 794.
No, 7794 at gmail.com. And my name's Bob Brennan. And when I hear all you guys complain about your steering, I've got an MGTC.
Now, does anyone know whether the SPAX kit, is that a gas adjustable?
It is adjustable. Yes, it is adjustable. It's got, I think, 24 points of adjustment that you can do with it, and it's a very simple adjustment right on the shock.
Is it a gas shock or a regular shock? Do you know?
Krypton gas.
Yeah.
Is it bolt-on?
Yes.
No
No welding required, no cutting
reversible.
required. It's I mean, it bolts right into your back shock. Where the old unit was, you just pull that off, it bolts in there, and the front's a little, I mean, you basically put a plate underneath your spring plate and hook it into your current top shock. Take the shock unit out of the top of it, and then it just attaches on the top to that, a lever.
So what I'm gathering is that there are no recent installations of this, at least from the people who were part of this.
I just did mine.
You did your SPAX
3 months ago, the SPAX one, yeah.
Right. No, I'm just talking about the
partners.
What do you have for a Healy?
A BJ7.
Okay, because I think there might be an issue with the far pass with a BJ8 phase 2. There might need some modification. I'm not positive, but it probably should be okay with BJ7.
Uh-huh. Yep. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. That's answers my question.
Sure, Ken will take care of you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Could I come back to the Brewster spares, whoever brought that up? Could that also go by the name of Custom Spares?
Yes.
That's the name, Custom Spares, and they're in Brewster, New York.
Okay, thank you.
You know, Sports and Classics in
Stanford,
Connecticut, they seem to have a lot of NOS stuff. Generally, it's not cheap, but they have it, and they've been around for, I don't know, 50 years or so.
John Peters and I went to college together, so I've known him, and he ran that business out of his basement. He's, I think his daughter is running the business now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
If anybody's interested, they drive at night with their Healys and they want to improve their headlights. Custom Spares makes and sells their own headlights. They make a copy of the CBA Z-beams, and they also do the Lucas tripods. And they now have a bulb that is the LED type bulb that just plugs in, and they're quite reasonable. I think you can have lights and the bulbs for under $100. And I have a set on my car, and what a difference at night. Wow. So.
I have a question for the group. I'm reinstalling the air duct hoses to the heater motor, and from the heater motor back into the heater. Any tips for actually getting those things in there and keeping them on?
You're taking the fender off?
Not in this lifetime.
That was my question. That's the easiest.
I will give you one thing that I did. I wrote an article about it. The fan, the rotary fan is nice, but it doesn't really give a lot of power. The fan up in the motor compartment.
Mhm.
If you go on to a boat site, they sell a bilge fan. It's almost like about this big. It's totally round.
Mhm.
They come in 3 and 4 inch diameter, and they have a little plate on them. You cut the plate off and you slide it in the hose that you're talking about just before the heater box. And what that does, it's a very powerful motor, and it'll take the air from the original heater in the front. You can turn that one on as well, and it blows into the heater box and makes a huge difference for the demisters. So it's a bilge ventilation fan. Looks like a little torpedo, and you buy them 3 or 4 inches depending on your what hose you're putting in, Rick. And it goes right under the glove box.
Yeah.
It makes a world of difference.
It'll be good for when we get the car wet inside too. They'll pump the bilge.
No. It's not a bilge pump. It's a fan.
Oh, okay.
It's supposed to take the gas smell out of the bilge.
Oh, so it doesn't blow up when you turn the key. Yeah, I get
Yeah,
it.
there you go. I mean, you can look it up on Boaters World or one of those
Yeah,
places.
West Marine probably has
West
it.
Marine has them. That's where I got mine. It's like $30, and it makes a big difference. But getting the hoses in,
No.
but no, it's difficult.
Yes, it is. All right. Any more questions?
Just a quick one. What was the name of the headlight, the brighter headlights?
It was Custom Spares in Brewster, New York.
Yeah, Custom Spares, Brewster. Okay.
You can turn on Highland Auto when you go over there.
Rick,
Yes.
Steve Hibbert. This is a little off the tech subject, but it sounds like most of the tech questions and answers and comments have gone by. And I somewhat hesitate to bring this up, but since you're the moderator, it's sort of up your alley because you write that wonderful article about auctions.
Oh, thank you.
And I wanted to give you a little heads up. And since I'm preaching to the choir, the rest of you guys on the call can all have a little chuckle on me. I think Bob Abbott knows this, but I have this absolutely fabulous BJ8, which I got thanks to doing a little good research and on-site research. And Bob has been terrific, Will, keeping it working well as it still is, and hopefully will for a long time. But something got into me, and I've always been in love with the Jaguar XK150. And I came across one that I finally decided at 82 years old, who knows before the kids are going to grab the keys from me. So I thought I would go ahead and buy it, but I obviously didn't do enough homework. It was at a Bonham's auction in Amelia Island, and it didn't sell. So after the auction, I got with someone from Bonhams and I talked with him and discussed it. And we did a little working around. It came from a fellow who basically collected cars and held them for a while and sold them out of New Jersey. And I ended up buying it. Well, I want to tell you, what I've discovered, thanks to a fabulous guy, I call him the Bob Abbott of Jaguars here in Marlborough, Mass, is that there is a whole lot more wrong with the car than I ever would have believed. And so the comment I wanted to make, and as I say, I may be preaching to the choir on all of this, is I was really surprised that Bonhams didn't do a better job of vetting this car. And I don't know, Rick, maybe you can comment on some of these auction houses, but frankly, I don't think I would ever take even their mechanics' words on something. I would definitely get my mechanic, even if it meant he had to fly across country to do it, because I just don't trust any of them, regardless, whether it's Bonhams, Goodings, RM Sotheby's, you name it. So any comments on that?
Well, we did a talk with a couple of experts in the field, auction experts. And one of the best advice that came across that was they're all just used car salesmen.
That's right.
You know, it's caveat emptor. They're going to put the best spin on it. Hopefully they're not going to engage in fraud, but you know, that they're not your agent. They're their agent or the seller's agent.
Right.
And you know, they're going to use a lot of nice words, and they're going to tell you the car's nice, and it may or may not be, depending. You know, frankly, I do the auction reports, and I would probably never buy a car at auction without at least having the opportunity to look at it first, and either myself inspecting it or having an expert do it and inspect it. Because it's just, you know, think about those big auction, you know, that you see on television, Mecum or any of those other,
Yeah.
you know, people, you see the car, people see the car up on the stand, it looks nice and shiny, and you know, it looks nice. If they haven't crawled under it before when they had the chance, or they haven't driven it, they don't know what they're getting. It could, they all look nice. You know, I've heard stories, you know, some people who are very, quote, well-respected, multi-$100,000 cars, and you look underneath them and they've been bodged together. They're not, you know, it's a crapshoot. It really is. And, you know, that's all I can say is I wouldn't do it myself. And, you know, if you get in a situation where you're at one of these big Monterey meets or Amelia or anything, and the booze starts flowing, and you know, somebody wants a car and it looks great to them, you tend to overbid. It's just, you know, they call it the red mist in racing. I think they call it red mist in auctions as well. You know, you want that car, you see it and you want it, and
Yeah.
it's I'm sorry it happened, but it does happen, and it's not, you know, it's not the cleanest business in the world. You know, whether it's auctioning cars or artwork or anything, you start looking at auctions and the number of stories that, you know, the horror stories that will come out. Matter of fact, I think, I don't know if it was this month or last month, I did a whole piece on, you know, the dark underbelly of auctions, and you know, shill bidding and you know, stuff like that.
Right.
You know, there's a reason why the CEO of Barrett Jackson has to walk around with a bunch of bodyguards.
Oh yeah, yeah. You know, and
that's true.
You know, you might get a nice car, but you might not either. You know, so
same goes for bring your own trailer.
I'm sorry.
Same thing goes for bring your own trailer. Bring your own trailer. What's the viewpoint of that?
Oh, I read that bring a trailer right now is 70 or 75% dealers. So when Bring a Trailer first started, it was mostly, you know, first of all, it wasn't an auction site. It was hey, we saw this car for sale on eBay or such and such, and, you know, you might need a trailer to go get it. Then when they first started out, it seemed to be mostly, you know, private people selling the car. Now
That's
it's
right.
all dealers, and, you know, you take a look at some of the Healey's that have been on Bring a Trailer lately. A lot of them are dealers. A lot of them, you know, take a look at a lot of the 100M auctions that have been going on lately, and there's been quite a few. And each one seems to have some glaring problems with them. And, you know, there's a 100M that was just offered last week. I think for the fourth time, it's been on Bring a Trailer, and it hasn't sold any time. I think the last time it bid was for 100 grand.
That's right.
That's Reed Trummel's car.
It was Reed Trummel's car.
Yeah.
Reed sold it to 911R, who's the company.
To your point, you can go to read that auction right now. It's it ended already.
Yeah.
So again, with no sale. The fourth time it was on there. First time it was offered by Reed. And the Bring a Trail is interesting. I could go on for a long time because I write an auction report for the Austin-Healey Sports and Touring Club every month. And I tend to focus on Bring a Trailer because of all of the comments. And that's the interesting part about Bring a Trailer. To go back to the XK150 example, if that car was sold on Bring a Trailer, the comments would have ferreted out everything that was wrong with it, I believe.
That's what I found with Bring a Trailer is,
first of all, that can also work both ways.
Well, true. You can also get chills in there saying, "I know this car, and it's a great car."
And they can sometimes kill an auction just by offhanded comments.
Right.
It's a lengthy subject, but
some people
Reed's car
they try to chill the auction so that they can buy the car themselves. You see that happen, and somebody go, "Oh, this thing is a piece of junk," and then later on they've lowballed it and bought the car themselves. So yeah, you know,
I just bring it up because Bring a Trailer will give you a trail back to all of the previous auctions of that car. They call them alumni, and so if you go to the current auction of Reed Trummel's car, it's a white over red 100M. Obviously, Reed is a well-known person in our business, and he's had this car for a long time. You can go back and read all 4 auctions and read all the hundreds of comments about it, which I have, and it's fascinating reading if you wanted to buy or sell a car on an online auction like Bring a Trailer. There's a couple of others that have clones that have popped up. Cars in Bids and P-Car Market are Bring a Trailer clones, but they tend to specialize in more modern cars. But you occasionally see a vintage car or even a Healey on there. But it's fascinating reading about what to do, what not to do, how to do it, how not to do it. I sold a car, an XKE, on Bring a Trailer about 2 years ago, and I did very well. I used a broker, so it appeared as if it was being sold by a dealer, but it really wasn't. It was being sold by me. The broker was very useful in that he took all the pictures and it handled all the transaction. It was well worth it. But what amazed me about it is not one person came to look at the car in person. It was. I
read that 95% of Bring Your Own Trailer cars are sold sight unseen.
I was just amazed. I mean, the car was a good car. The person got a good car, got at a fair price. I was happy. They should have been happy. I had no idea who bought it. Never spoke to the person. Never met him. And I was just stunned that nobody ever came to look at this, 6-figure car that they were buying sight unseen. Looked great in the pictures, and it was great. But to whoever said it before, they all looked good in the pictures.
What was the broker fee, if I could ask?
About 5%.
Yeah.
It was well worth it. Yeah, I didn't have to deal with anybody, and he took fabulous pictures, including drone pictures and everything that I couldn't do. And it's very helpful. So a lot of those dealer sales on Bring a Trailer are actually just brokers selling for a buyer who's, I watched the whole auction. Any question that was asked, I answered. But through the broker, no one ever knew that I was the the seller behind the scenes. Several people recognized the car and they chimed in, but they didn't reveal my identity.
You
So
know,
anyway,
there's another section you pointed out. Not only do they show on Bring a Trailer the alumni, you know, past times it's been offered on Bring a Trailer, but if you go over into the right-hand side, there's a box that has all the information about the car, and they usually have the chassis number, the car ID number in red.
Yeah.
And if you click on that, that'll bring you a Google search, and you don't get only the Bring a Trailer listings, but a lot of times you get all the history of the car. I know there's one on there now. It's that it's not a metallic golden beige BJ8, but it looks like a metallic golden beige. And
yeah, it wasn't an original metallic golden beige car.
It was red.
I forget the color they called it.
Colorado red.
It was
yeah,
really red.
it was red, and now it's
Yeah.
Nevada or a Pueblo beige.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's some name like that.
It's a
yeah,
mini.
but-
It's actually an old mini color.
yeah.
And you know, the funny thing about that is that car won Concours Gold in '95, and I don't know how they did it with that color change, because it's not metallic golden beige. But
And it's the wrong year. I don't believe it's a 67.
Yeah, it's a 60. They actually built in '66. That car was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I forget, was it a 67 or 66? I'm
66,
following that
67.
auction just to see. Because I have a golden beige metallic
Yeah.
Healy, a real one.
Yeah,
And,
well, that car was assembled in '66, and they advertised it in '67.
yeah.
But my point is, if you go to that auction and you click on the red chassis number, it'll bring you back all the sales. That car has been auctioned off 2 times already, and not on Bring a Trailer.
And they also allow you to click on the seller or and see their previous buys, sells, and comments on it. So there's a ton of information on that site. It's extremely well done. Whether it's a good thing to do or not is, that's a personal decision. But it's a very interesting site to follow and read.
Now we sold one of our former Nick Zarkades, who was a AHC New England member who passed away. And we sold his car and Bring a Trailer. The same
That
thing.
was the red Healy. The
Pardon me?
red Healy. There was the
Yeah,
red
red
Healy.
one. It's a red BG8. Same thing. No one ever came to look at it. It was a lawyer from New York that bought it. We were happy as clams. Never heard from him again, which is even better.
Yeah, that was the best. That's the best thing about the sale. Never want to see the car again.
No, see you. Away we go. And
Well,
the only
anyway,
downside is the bidder on the car is under no obligation to buy the car. And they always have the ability, let's say they after they've won the bid, if they really care enough to come out and look at the car first, they can say, geez, I don't want this guy, or my wife said I can't buy it, or whatever. And all they lose is their fee. Bring a Trailer's happy for the most part. They get their fee. And
they've just made another change. I don't know. You mentioned Mecum. Are you familiar with the Mecum's the bid goes on process? In other words, if the car doesn't sell, they have a desk that allows people to continue bids.
yeah,
Bring a Trailer has just introduced something like that. I think they realized that they were giving away a lot of money because of a car sold. Let's say it's a $100,000 car, which is $5,000 fee to the buyer on Bring a Trailer. If the car doesn't hit the reserve and the high bidder and the seller reach a deal outside the auction itself, since it's closed, Bring a Trailer gets nothing. And they must have figured out that, wait a minute, we've done most of the work on this car, but now they have I'll call it the equivalent of the Mecum bids goes on. And they're making it sound like it's a great thing, but it's really just a way for them to capture the fee on a sale that didn't hit the reserve. So it's interesting. I'd have done the same thing if I were them, actually.
I think they also probably, people that were smart sellers or smart bidders would try not to, to bid high and be the high bidder, but not meet reserve, and then try to make a deal outside outside.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because they're willing, if once it hits 100,000, you know they're willing to pay 105 for that car because that would have been what their fee would have been.
Who's waiting for you?
You know, it's fascinating. I'm working on this column now, and if anybody follows the market, prices of Healey's have not been doing very well lately. And I think I'm going to compare it, you know, when we were all younger and our parents had that lovely, you know, dining room set that they saved up for years and you know, it was all brown wood and they polished and everything. And then, you know, as people get older and you try to give it to your kids and nobody wanted it. And I'm starting to think
Give it away.
becoming the, you know, Healey's are becoming the brown furniture of the auction world here. And it's there's a couple of nice coming up in Monterey this week. There's a 100S at auction, and there's also a very nice 100M. That there's a 100M on Bring a Trailer now that looks like a nice one. That doesn't look like it has any stories, and there's another 100M that's very nice at the Quail this week. So if you're looking for a big dollar Healey and still got the money to spend, there's a couple of them out there. You have any other questions? All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. And
Thanks, Rick.
one more thing I wanted to mention. We record these and we put them up on our YouTube channel every month. And the YouTube channel is the same. Go on YouTube and look at Austin-Healey Club of New England. And that is our YouTube channel. And the reason I bring it up with regards to the tech calls is because when I post them on YouTube, I also put a summary of the topics that have been discussed. And if you go on that YouTube channel, there is a small search. It's not the search window. It's a little magnifying glass on the upper right-hand side, and you can search terms. And if you want to search trafficator, for example, it'll bring up all the videos that we've discussed on the tech conference call. So you can actually go back and find, you know, 3 or 4 discussions about, you know, virtually anything, trafficators, you know, oil. I'm sure there's 1 or 2 on oil, you know, but it's another way to look for things that will help you with your searches. All right, folks. Have
Thank
a good
you, Rick.
Thanks.
Thanks, Rick.
Take care.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
Good night.